Welcome back to the MyLatinLife podcast. Since 2014, MyLatinLife has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Our guest today is Daniel Nance from ParaguayFarming.com. They have a Paraguay-approved SUACE vehicle for the fast-track permanent residency in Paraguay. So basically, they have like an agribusiness investment opportunity that would qualify for the Paraguay permanent residency, which is pretty interesting. So we brought Daniel on to talk about this. How's it going, Daniel?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today, Vance.
Absolutely. Paraguay is one of the most popular countries in Latin America for digital nomads in expats, one of the most popular residencies. Me, myself, I've been a Paraguay resident for over 5 years now. What's cool, or what changed is now most people typically start as temporary residents. And what most people don't realize is that there's this other pathway, the investor visa, also called the SUACE visa. That's an acronym, SUACE, to get immediate permanent residency by making a qualifying investment in Paraguay, right?
Well, correct. We already have several people who've qualified for permanent residency within like 3 months. You know, what you were mentioning before, it takes a couple of years to get to permanent residency. And the other nice thing is they have a passive income here business that produces passive income for the next 20 years as well. So it's kind of a great way to get permanent residency, and also a great way to make money while you're getting that permanent residency in Paraguay.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. So maybe could you kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself, actually, before we even get into ParaguayFarming.com and the agribusiness stuff? Would love to kind of hear about how you got into all this stuff.
Well, I've been living in Costa Rica and Panama for about 20 years. And uh, uh, I had some friends actually who were involved in these agribusinesses, and they knew I had some skills that they could, exploit in
Exploit.
in marketing and also in sales. And so I'm just making a funny there, but yeah. So anyway, I decided, well, for me, that would be a great way for me to also make money while I'm living overseas. And I guess I was one of the original, expats, digital nomad type people, right? Working from eventually, initially working in offices and whatnot, but eventually working from my home office, which is great.
That's cool. And when did you move from Costa Rica to Panama?
Oh, that was about 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Yeah. So
And I know this is totally an aside, but I hear that they're finally kind of like opening up the floodgates to applications for Panama citizenship. Are you in the running for that?
Um, well, not really. That doesn't necessarily really interest me that much. I, we could go into the potential benefits of having another passport or whatnot, but I think, for me, it's good enough for me just to have, perhaps different permanent residencies. And
Definitely.
that would solve any needs I have. I'm already into my mid 60s now. So, if I was 40 years old, I might be chasing the passports.
Fair enough. Yeah, me myself, I have permanent residency in Mexico and Panama, and Paraguay, of course.
Yeah, good.
And these are the most popular programs we do. Paraguay is extremely popular, and we've never had anyone on to talk about this direct investor visa. I've done some YouTube videos about it, but I have not done a podcast about it. So really, really appreciate your time today. So I think we want to mention the investment sort of threshold, or how much do you have to invest in order to get that direct PR in Paraguay?
It's currently $70,000, which, for anybody who has been uh, following various different residency programs, that that's really affordable compared to many, including like the ones here in Panama.
Right? Panama's like a 200K investment. Costa Rica is like 60K.
Mm-hmm.
So it's comparable.
Yeah. Yeah. But a lot less expensive than, let's say, some of these European residency programs.
This is
Correct.
true. Yeah, definitely not
Carib-
a quick golden
Carib-
visa level.
yeah. And also Caribbean
Right.
residency programs as well.
And another thing probably worth mentioning is that it's like a per adult basis. So if it's a family, the husband and wife both need to make a qualifying investment separately. So that would push it up to 140 for the family, right?
Correct.
And I think it's only kind of kids. Well, and then the kids start on temporary residency regardless, right? So it's kind of an interesting thing where the parents who do the SUACE or who make the investment, they get PR, but all their kids would actually only start on temp. But it's not the biggest deal. But is that accurate?
That is accurate, but in a way, it kind of makes sense. The parents are probably the ones who initially would need the permanent residency and the benefits that go along with that. If they want to, do various different things in Paraguay and have the permanent residency help them do that.
And I was just thinking about this today, Daniel, and there's actually kind of like a hidden upside of having the kids start on temp, which is that there's no issues about dependents hitting age 18 or hitting age 21 and no longer being considered dependents. Because this is something we deal with in other countries, like say in Mexico, where they say, okay, like it's different for every country, but they'll say, okay, it's dependent up to age 18, but then after that, they would have to have their own money or make their own qualifying investment, whatever. But for Paraguay, because it's temp, it doesn't really matter if they're 18 or 19 or 21. There's really no concept of like dependence in Paraguay. So in a way, it's actually kind of easier that you don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, you make a good point. That's a nice upside.
So I guess let's get into the opportunity exactly. So why don't you tell us about ParaguayFarming.com, Frutas del Paraguay?
Okay. So the business model is actually made up of two parts. It consists of a real estate and a farm service contract that we will provide you, 11 pages long, not too onerous. This business model is considered a turnkey and passive income investment, meaning, as I mentioned, it has a farm service contract. You don't have to go out there and work on the farm. You're welcome to come and visit it. The Frutas del Paraguay will work the farm for you. Okay. And passive income, meaning you don't have to do anything to receive your income July 31st every year for the next 20 years.
Hmm. So it just went out because we're recording this like first week of August.
Yeah. We just had another payout, the third one so far. It's still pretty early in the project. So the real estate portion of the contract is the land purchase, including the persimmon trees and the irrigation system on each lot. There's a fertigation system where each tree gets a specific amount of water and minerals and vitamins. And so this has the second positive effect of being a very sustainable operation. So here, the second part of the agreement is the farm service agreement. This agreement is between the investor and Frutas del Paraguay, SA, for management of the farm for all investors over a 20-year period. And that 20-year period is not arbitrary. That's basically the life of a fruit tree, right? Many fruit trees have around a 20-year life, okay? Now, this includes the maintenance of all the farm infrastructure, the equipment, and the security. And the payouts are fiscal year go from June into July each year, and all payments are made by July 31st of each year as per the contract. And then you're also provided with an annual report on July 31st as well. And, you're probably wondering about the taxes. The local Paraguay income taxes are paid for the investors by Frutas del Paraguay. And the tax payment report will then be provided by December 31st of each year to the investors. Okay, so you don't have to deal with the local tax authorities, and you will get a tax report at the end of year that you can use for whatever purpose you need. Okay. Um, about the taxes, the amount of Paraguay taxes varies between 10 and 15%. Payouts paid in Paraguay are 10%. And if you have your payments sent outside of Paraguay, outside of the country, they're going to be 15%. And the 15% taxes are factored into the return on investment projections. And so, because that's kind of what most people have done so far, like as you mentioned before, this SUACE program is relatively new. Okay, so we're just now starting to get people who could potentially open up bank accounts in Paraguay and just pay 10% in taxes. And in fact, opening up bank accounts is one of the first things they're going to do with their permanent residency.
Yep, definitely.
So you can, the next thing that we kind of had discussed that we wanted to talk about, Vance, was how this investment qualifies for the Paraguay Fast Track SUACE Permanent Residency Program. You want to go down and talk about that?
Sure.
Before we get into the persimmons and into the company.
What's your favorite fruit? Please tell me, how does this qualify?
Okay. Over the last couple of years, we'd had several inquiries from people interested in Paraguay permanent residency. They were looking to invest in agriculture if possible. There's a little bit of a cachet to investing in agriculture, and you have a lot of big names telling people to invest in agriculture, like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and stuff like that. And so people are looking for these agriculture projects if they fit. At that point, we contacted the SUACE program administration and presented the Frutas del Paraguay project business model, and it was approved as a qualifying investment for the SUACE program. So your business provides training and good paying full and part-time jobs on this farm and in the processing plant. Employing people in Paraguay is a key element to this SUACE program and one of the main reasons why they created it. Okay, and as I mentioned before, the minimum investment is $70,000. We have 3 clients who've already received their permanent residency visas, and several more are still in process. In Vance, it was pretty quick, depending on how quickly the people could come back. It was anywhere from 2 to 3 visits, depending on whether they could stay in country or had to leave. Some of these people were living fairly close by in Argentina. All right, so it wasn't difficult for them to bounce over to Paraguay. And so, it's actually quite a quick process depending on your schedule, the investor's schedule. And one other benefit I found out from these guys, and I didn't know this initially, is that if you go this SUACE route, the applicants are basically treated like VIP immigration candidates for Paraguay. So for your convenience, Paraguay Immigration has a satellite office set up in the SUACE office. So you don't have to endure the long lines at the main immigration processing building. And for anyone who's ever had to stand in the line at a foreign immigration facility, this alone is worth its weight in gold.
For those of you who are experience in Panama too, by the way, and it made like a huge difference. Like the Panama one was insane. And yes, I noticed that like regular people were waiting all day. And then the people that, were working with the top law firms in Panama, they were like skipping the whole line. And like, I had like an assistant guy he was there every day, right? And he's like, "¿Cómo estás?" with the people that work there. So,
which makes a good point. If you're not going to do the SUACE permanent residency, probably a good idea to get a Paraguayan lawyer, because I think that's what they're going to mandate, by the way, that, your helpers or your lawyers have to be Paraguayan going forward. I think that's in legislation. But in Paraguay, you get a team to help you there, and I believe, Vance, that you provide one of those teams as well over there. And the difference between Panama and Paraguay is night and day, only because Panama is processing so many more people.
This episode of the MyLatinLife podcast is brought to you in part by Crema Social. Crema Social is like TikTok for international dating. It's an app you can download right now on your phone, and 3 out of 4 people on Crema are single women. The app was founded in Colombia, so unsurprisingly, there are a lot of Latinas on the app, by the way. So how does it work? Crema Social is a social meal experience where you invite a hot girl for a lunch date via video call and food delivery. New concept, so you'll have to try it out for yourself, but this is probably the best way to meet Latinas before you visit the country. So if you're in Latin America or planning to visit Latin America, download Crema Social now and start getting dates right away. There will be a link in the description to download, or just search Crema Social on your favorite app store. Have fun, guys. Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably worth repeating what you said. So, Paraguay, I don't think almost anybody knows this. Paraguay immigration has a satellite office set
Yeah.
up in the SUACE office,
Yes.
so you don't even go to the main immigration building.
No. You just take your papers from SUACE once you're approved, and then you walk over to the window with immigration there. And, yeah, I can't say that you're not going to have to leave the building. You might have to go get some translations done. You might have to go get some apostilles, but you're not going to have to go stand in line at the big Paraguay immigration facility.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we
It
handle all
really
the
treats you like,
the the translations and all the like stuff that people need. Like there is a lot of pre-work that goes into it
yeah,
so that you can actually apply on day one. Like we have to do all the translations ahead of time before the people even arrive in the country, and a pretty long list of things need to take place before someone can actually submit that application.
right. Now, just to give you a little window into what happens with this particular investment is Frutas del Paraguay will work with you. They will provide you with their Paraguay corporate documents, which is required because you're using their corporate documents. You don't have to go create a corporation. That whole route has been approved, so that's another savings on time and money.
That you don't need a corporation.
No, you use the Frutas del Paraguay Corporation because you're kind of you're kind of a partner with them, basically, for lack of a better word. And I probably could come up with a better word, but basically a partner with them.
Sure.
Sharing in all of the responsibilities with the business.
Okay.
And the benefits of the business.
That would definitely make things easier, reduce costs. And then also for Americans like yourself, there's like the CFC rules, right? Like controlled foreign corporations and stuff like that, where for Americans, even having a Paraguayan company can have complications. So the fact that you don't need that actually makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, good point. Okay, and then the other thing they'll do is you can create a document, and some of these people actually use Chat GPT to give a compressed version of the business model. Okay, and then also a Chat GPT compressed version of the 11-page contract. All right, all in Spanish, and then Frutas del Paraguay will stamp and sign those as well. So if you can get all that done ahead of time with a little bit of help from Frutas del Paraguay, pretty much have everything taken care of other than your own personal document responsibilities, which that's all kind of very general and the same for everybody, right? Regardless of whether you go for permanent fast track residency or whether you go through the temporary process. So, but Frutas del Paraguay will provide you with help and some of the documents you need so that you can get your business approved. You get a certificate, and then you take that certificate of the approved business over to immigration. And then you're a VIP over there.
Totally. And I think probably another thing worth mentioning is that you kind of need a vehicle like this because the spirit of the program is there needs to be like job creation in Paraguay, and that's why you can't just buy a single family home. Maybe that's what people are thinking. That's kind of like
Yeah.
sometimes the typical path in other countries. They go, oh, okay, like 70K, whatever, buy a 70K house. It doesn't work like that in Paraguay because it needs to be like a functioning business that hires employees and pays, social security taxes or whatever. Like it needs to be a business investment, and the biggest thing is that it hires employees sort of directly. And you guys have kind of got that all figured out already.
Yeah, well, I think probably originally they were thinking people would open up, shoe stores or restaurants or hair salons, things like that. Okay. Or stores in the mall or whatever. Okay. So it wasn't like they originally thought that, oh, you can own part of a big farm that has a bunch of employees and you can be like a partner on that farm and then you can qualify. So, like I said, we presented this whole business model to them and they go, well, you know what? That actually makes sense. And actually, you actually employ a lot of people. So this is actually great. So, like I said, I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but I basically created a new business model that's accepted for the SUACE Fast Track Permanent Residency Program in Paraguay.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's why we wanted to have you on. And although it might, the episode might seem like a bit of an advertisement, which it definitely is, like, uh, at the same
Yeah, we'd
time,
love for you to invest either,
yeah,
whether you were going to go for residency or whether you just want to make 20 years of passive income, of course. But I think this is a lot of good information for people that they didn't know,
exactly.
you know, until you now doing a podcast on it, Vance. So, kudos to you.
Exactly. I do know people who have done the SUACE program, especially for high net worth individuals, that they just can't be bothered to have to visit like 3, 4 times and have to come back to renew. And, on temporary, you have to visit the country once every 365 days. And so, once you hit a certain like net worth threshold, like it just doesn't make sense to have to, disrupt your business and, fly from Dubai or wherever you live like every year to visit Paraguay. So, a lot of people are just like, hey, can I just invest some money, in a relatively safe asset and business and go directly to PR, and kind of skip all the noise. So it
Well,
definitely makes sense for a certain type of person.
right. Well, the really high net worth people, they're going to want a place to park their uh, yacht. Okay, so that's where the Caribbean comes in, or
Uh-huh.
Malta, or Portugal, or things like that. Which are a much more expensive visa route. So this is more designed for people who aren't necessarily high net worth people, and so it opens it up the door where you could be treated like a high net worth people, get all the benefits, but you don't have a yacht, you don't need a place to park it, and you like Asuncion, which is a pretty cosmopolitan city, and you like the little towns all around Paraguay, right, which are kind of neat, and nobody tells you what to do. You can build and nobody's like in Europe. The Europeans are always being told what to do, right? Especially when it comes to building things, right? All Europeans I know, initially a lot of Germans who've been living over in Paraguay for years and continue to come. As Germany gets a little weird, they just love the fact they can put a pool in, they can build a house, they can go lay out in the sun during what is the winter over there in Germany, and nobody's telling them what to do.
Yeah, definitely makes
Regular
sense.
people, regular people. Okay,
I thought you were going to say park your cash, not park your yacht. So I was thinking maybe we could get into a little bit more about the like the payouts or the returns or like,
Sure.
obviously you're not guaranteeing a particular ROI or whatever, but are you providing any guidance on what people might expect?
Yeah, well, we provide a 20-year return on investment sheet, and instead of throwing a bunch of money, a bunch of numbers around in a podcast, Vance, which people it kind of gets mind-boggling for people. Let me
Uh-huh.
just let me just say, as far as the payouts and returns, that, they start off a little slower. They pick up as the tree gets older and produces more. And then in the last couple of years, when the tree has reached max growth and production, they start to slow down a little bit. It's what is referred to as a curve that's called a parabola. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you get 15 really good years in the middle where you're getting double digit payouts, which, there's not a lot of investments you can get that are conservative and safe like this that also produce double digit payouts. So that's very nice. All right. And these are also very conservative ROIs. The Spaniards, who are from Valencia and very knowledgeable, they have several different types of agricultural businesses around the world. The one thing they told us, the marketing team is, we want very realistic and reachable returns on our return on investment sheet, right? And so that's fine with us. That's great. I think people are getting a little bit tired of seeing sometimes these returns that are just ridiculous, right? And they never reach them. It's actually better to have a return that you can actually reach, right? Or exceed, or maybe just slightly come under, and you keep happy. Yeah, you keep people happy that
It's
way
like
instead
if
of
you,
constantly.
I forget what the term is, but if you like sort of did like a average rate of return over the 20 years, right? Is it
Yeah,
more, are we looking more like a 3% return, like just sort of maintain the money? Or are we looking more at like a 10% return if it was sort of annualized?
yeah. Well, they call that the IRR. It's it's your over the 20 years. How much is the average, or what is the total? Let's do what's the total return over 20 years, and that's with the lesser years, the medium years, and the bigger years involved. What it all comes out to in the end is an 18.4% IRR over
Nice.
21 years, right? So that's nice. I mean, so obviously there's some years during peak when they're up over 20%, other years where they're around 19 or 18. In the beginning, they start out at 7, 9. Next year, we're getting into the first double digits, uh, projected to be 12.1 next year, 10% this year, 12% next year. And like I said, it's a parabola. These will continue to grow as the trees get bigger and production is better. And if everything is done correctly to get max production out of the trees while also safeguarding the trees. And these guys are experts at this. They also grow persimmons over in Spain as well. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a little bit different between Paraguay and Spain. You're talking about two different hemispheres, all right? But there's a lot of things that are the same. And they picked out this particular land so that it would kind of mirror what they deal with over in Spain in terms of soil and temperatures and whatnot. Because there's actually various different climes in Paraguay.
Yeah. Do you say what department of Paraguay it's in?
It's in Santa Maria. Yeah,
Santa
which is
Maria.
a bunch of really neat little small towns and farms. And so the employees come from those small towns, and you can imagine what it would be like for a small town to have, 10 or
In
15 people that
Misiones.
have
In the
Misiones. Yeah,
in Misiones
Misiones.
department.
Hmm.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what did I say, Santa Maria or something?
Yeah, it's like the town. And then the department, which is kind of like the state,
Yeah.
is Misiones.
Yeah, so you can imagine what having, uh, several people in your town with these new jobs that didn't exist before, how that might even contribute to the local economies in each town. It does have an impact.
Definitely. I had a random question about insurance.
Mhm.
I know on some of these agribusiness investments, maybe you know Patrick Hebert, friend of the podcast, and we had him on one time to talk about Nicaragua, and there was like this thing where you could like pay extra to get insurance in the case of like crop disaster, I think it was. Maybe I'm mischaracterizing it, but is there anything like that in Paraguay?
Well, agricultural insurance isn't really provided, and whatever is out there is pretty onerous. So, what we've done is we've kind of given that control to the investors. And so, what we have is a reserve fund. Okay, which if there's, if the netting that we put over the trees needs to be repaired, or any equipment needs to be repaired or purchased, or if there's actually tree lost, this reserve fund is used. It's it's all put in an interest bearing account. It comes out of your return every year. It's factored into the ROI already. Okay, before you get your return percentage and your return amount, so it's all factored in. Earns interest if they don't use it, and if they need to use it, then they have basically a self-insurance program, so to speak. It's a little bit like what you were talking about, but it doesn't involve an insurance company, right? It's just, yeah, Frutas del Paraguay.
So 70K is like all you'll ever have to pay.
Correct.
Basically. Like there's no annual ongoing maintenance fees or insurance fees or anything.
Well, factored into the ROI are, the usual farm type maintenance things, and also the reserve fund. So that's all factored in.
It's factored in. Okay.
And you're still getting
better. I like factored in's better. Like I feel like it's more palatable, because with the Nicaragua one, it was like, okay, you get the lot, and here's the ROI, and then it's like, hey, if you want, you can get insurance for like an extra $100 a month or whatever it is.
You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like when you go in and buy a used car. and then where they really want to get you to do is they want to get you to buy the insurance or whatever else.
It's like the upsell. It's like the upsell.
The 5-year maintenance program. Okay, you want that? That's
Okay.
So
cool. No, I like this. This is more simple.
Yeah, it's baked right in already. Okay, and also they have said that after a certain number of years, if we haven't had to use it, we can actually return some of that money, and it will be returned sometimes because it'll be continuously building. When it gets to a point where they have maybe more in there than they need, even for the replacement of 20, 30 trees or whatever, or 100 trees, if that happened, they'll return that money to the investors.
Okay. I guess similar to insurance would be about risks. So what are some of the risks with this type of project, and how do you mitigate the risks?
Yeah, well, the first thing you need to do is, when I think of Brazil, I think of their giant orange plantations, right? And so sometimes they have issues because those orange plantations are so big that they don't have enough people, or they, for whatever reason, they don't keep an eye on the entire plantation. And so, on the edges and on the fringes of these big giant plantations, things can take hold. Like in the case of oranges, would be greening. That's famous, right? And that can take hold before they even notice it. Next thing you know, it's inside the inner parts of your plantation. Well, this is a medium-sized plantation, very manageable. Okay, one of the things that they need to keep under control on these hardwood trees is they need to control fungus. Okay, and so sometimes it can be it's really mostly pretty warm and pretty hot, and they're reliant on the aquifer and the well and the pond and the drip system to water the plants. But there's a couple months during the year in Paraguay where it can rain pretty hard, and that could create fungus. And so they invested a couple years ago, on the behalf of the company and also the clients, in an ozone spraying system. And this basically eliminates the fungus, okay? And then also to protect the trees from things like extreme heat, which sometimes you have in Paraguay. And then also, like I said, heavy rain a couple of the months, and could even turn into hail. They have a netting system which covers all of the trees, and it's retractable. Okay, so that's another investment they made to protect the trees. And so these are all mitigating, the client's risk, and they're already in place. So, anybody who invests now is already the benefactor of all of these improvements. And so again, they also have fertigation, and that fertigation system originally came out of Germany, and that basically allows you to provide each tree with an individual designated amount of water and nutrients. And so what you get there is you get consistency across the entire plantation, right? Which is great. Even though, you're not your particular lot, you're not responsible just for your particular lot in terms of the money that's made each year. I told you everything's pooled. which also is good because everybody shares in the responsibilities and the benefits. Not one person, where maybe there was a problem, let's say, has to take responsibility while everybody else is making money, right? It doesn't work that way. It's also nice to know they're not wasting water, even though there is kind of plenty of water in Paraguay.
Yeah, plenty of water.
Yeah, yeah, they don't. It has the largest one of the largest aquifers in the world, right? But they still don't waste it. Okay. Um,
I don't know what this thing is with the wasting water. I mean, this is totally random, but some people are like, "Oh, you did a ChatGPT query? That's a liter of water. You just wasted." I'm like, the world
yeah,
has plenty of water. Like, if you ask Elon Musk, they ask Elon Musk about water, and he's like, in the interviews, and he's like, "No, no, no, we have plenty of water. I mean, thirds of the planet's water. Like, it's kind of like a fake environmental concern in a way." Um, anyway.
yeah. Some people can go a little bit overboard about it, but the deal is, even though Paraguay is pretty well set for water, let's face it, the world probably is facing a freshwater crisis. Even though if
No, I
Paraguay,
think I think the world is like fine for water. I mean, it's totally off topic here, but I think it's
yeah,
like those things where it's like they're creating like false scarcity or something, but like there's tons of fresh water and like water desalinization and stuff like that. It's like a very solved problem, but anyway.
yeah, well, that I'm glad to hear that. Actually, unfortunately, there's so much fake news out there these days that it's hard to say what's real and what's not real anymore, right?
True. I
Everybody
had
has
another
it.
random question. So is it all persimmon? Like, it's like a one fruit farm sort of?
Yeah, and let's see here. Um, so it's all persimmons,
Mhm.
okay? And the reason why they chose persimmons is because they can grow it in Paraguay, right? Number one, which is important, and they can grow a high quality persimmon here. And then what the original idea was, we'll take that and we'll ship those to Europe when Europe normally does not have persimmons. In other words,
Right.
it's out of
In the
season. So
off
normally,
season.
yeah, they would have persimmons would be available, and then they'd go for several months during the year where there were no persimmons, and it's pretty popular in Europe. Okay, as far as this bright red variety of persimmons that we grow, and so all of a sudden now, thanks to Frutas del Paraguay, they see there's persimmons and really nice ones on the grocery shelves, and they're like, how is this possible? For somebody who's been buying persimmons for 30 years, right? How is this possible? When they look on there, they see Frutas del Paraguay, and then the light goes off. Oh my God, they're coming from another hemisphere. So that was the business model. They provide a premium product to during what is normally the off season over there in Europe, if I could just say one
That
market,
makes
okay, and they can charge a premium price for that, and that also return comes back to the client.
that makes sense. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember when I was in Sicily, like they even make drinks out of it. Like, like the
Oh, nice.
yeah, what are those drinks called? Like it's like a soft drink, like a carbonated drink, and they'll do like a carbonated persimmon water drink.
Interesting. Never had it. I wonder if it's the kind where it's mostly water and then it's infused, right? Some of these are infused, right,
Yeah,
with
maybe.
just a little bit of fruit flavor, or it might be just a full on persimmon soda. That's interesting. so,
Yeah,
but
I'm
see,
looking
that's
at it.
something there's like different levels of persimmons quality, right? A quality, B quality, C quality, and the A quality, would be like a perfect apple or a perfect pear, right, on your table or in the thing. Now, if maybe it's got a couple little sunburns on it or something like that, it might go down to B quality. And so then you could take that fruit and you could turn it into other things, right? Like juice,
Right.
right? It wouldn't be something you might want to put on your table because people are kind of picky about persimmons. They want them to be perfect in the markets on their table until they slice it up and eat it. But for the other levels of quality of the persimmons that you inevitably get on your farm, right? There's other ways that you can use them.
Very cool. What else do you feel like we potentially didn't cover, or is there anything that you wanted to elaborate more on?
Well, I'd like to talk just a little bit about Frutas del Paraguay and why would you want to work with these guys. And I mentioned a little bit that they have agricultural businesses all around the world, and so they're an experienced administrator and farm management company who have mastered the art of growing persimmon fruits, and their agricultural expertise spans many years of successful projects throughout Spain, Paraguay, the rest of the world. And the two of the company's partners come from Valencia, Spain. Ignacio Prats, our technical director, he has his own production of persimmons in Valencia while providing technical advice to several other large persimmon farms. And then Miguel Basamba, the CEO, has many of these different types of agricultural business. In fact, probably one of his biggest ones is he provides ornamental trees and plants to large um, uh, projects around the world. Our landscaping projects around the world, in the Middle East, like Dubai, and then in the Far East. Sometimes big corporations, sometimes very wealthy people. And one of the things he was doing in Paraguay and continues to do, and in the countries nearby, like maybe Bolivia or whatever, is he's sourcing some of uh, these different plants and trees, right? While he's out there working the persimmons, he'll usually take a couple days or a weekend to go somewhere and source some of these exotic plants and trees that you can only find in places like Paraguay.
Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about BitRefill. BitRefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. BitRefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. Yeah, very cool. And if people are unfamiliar with persimmons, like they're also known as kaki is like the other official
Correct.
name.
Yeah.
Like in Spanish, it's called a kaki. So you could also search like kaki paraguayo to see that.
Yeah.
And even in Portuguese too, it's called kaki. Like I think in most languages, it's called kaki.
It
English is kind of like
is,
the
yeah.
exception.
Yeah.
That's cool. So management team experience doing projects not just in Paraguay but all around the world.
Yeah. And I think the key benefits, if I were to summarize them, you've got a turnkey and passive investment with land ownership.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of some people's portfolio diversification, and it makes a great inflation hedge. You're investing in a country with a stable, growing economy and easy access to low cost energy and labor, and you're investing in a global GAP certified productive income generating farm. So that's a global certification, very important to have. And your produce is sold at a premium price in Europe and with easy access to growing South American markets as well that we're looking at. Has a very attractive ROI. Okay. The main risks are mitigated and covered by a reserve fund. And you're partnering with an experienced administrator and farm management company who mastered the art of growing persimmons a long time ago. So, this is, a sleep at night investment that can also get you fast track permanent residency in Paraguay. And by sleep at night, I mean, you don't have to worry about it all the time. It's not like you're checking to see how much your gold has gone up and down, other hard assets I can think of, and other ones that are now kind of considered hard assets. You're always checking to see where your Bitcoin's at, right? You don't have to do that with this investment. You just make your initial investment, let these experts run the farm, and get your money once a year. Okay? You don't have to worry about some kind of crash in the market, or this is also a stock market potential issue. Seems to go on and on and on, but for years the market's been in a bubble supposedly. I mean, one day someone's going to get caught in the bubble, but so I think people worry about that. They don't know when to get in or get out of the stock market. You're not worried about that with this, but if you do have an emergency and you need to sell your property, this is a hard asset, okay, and it's something that a producing persimmon farm, which is producing yearly income, uh, as a person who sells these types of investments, I can tell you that it would take maybe 2 or 3 weeks to find somebody who wanted to take over your farm from you. It's very liquid as far as real estate is concerned, compared to, like, say, my Costa Rica apartments in San Jose, that have devalued over the years, and I'm trying to wait for them to get some value back. And then, do I have anybody who wants to buy them? And you know, they're not very liquid, okay, compared to this.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. And I think people are sort of historically under diversified into agriculture. So usually most people's portfolio needs more agriculture like this. So.
Yeah, this is kind of something that's become popular over the last 5 years or so, mostly. Um, Up until then, like you said, most people don't think about it, or don't understand how they can get into it. And I think, when Frutas del Paraguay bought the land, uh, and planted the trees, I don't think, bringing in private investors was their first thought, but they got to know us and they saw that we had done this on other projects, and so the light went off on their head. Hey, we can expand faster. We can buy things to protect the farm faster, that we were going to invest in anyway, and get better production. And so, yeah, we'll take on some private equity, some private investors. This is a good idea. And so even the businesses sometimes don't necessarily think of this initially, but when they find out it's possible and that people actually like to invest in something like this, they're like, "Wow, that's great, perfect. We don't mind, sharing the profits a little bit, and kind of partnering with these people on this, and that allows us to do things quicker, faster."
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
Mhm.
So I guess let's probably get to wrapping up. Anything you want to mention or any topics before we get to the wrap up?
Yeah, well, you know, so you can come through My Latin Life, and I will let you know that once you do come to us at ParaguayFarming.com, and we are basically the English speaking marketing company for Frutas del Paraguay, this company, which is a combination Spanish and Paraguayan company.
Mhm.
We have a really nice brochure, which has a lot of really interesting details that you should get from us as soon as you can. All right. And so through Vance, we'll work out something where you can request the brochure. Maybe we'll send you to a homepage, right, Vance, where they can get the information they need.
Yep.
Because we didn't cover everything here in the podcast. There just wasn't enough time. But the brochure is something, you could take your time with.
I love brochures. I'm
Yeah.
a brochure guy.
This is a nice one. This is a nice one. This is a nice one,
So
man. This is a
So yeah, there'll
keeper.
be there'll be links in the description to get in touch with Daniel directly. Paraguay. Why do I keep wanting to say Paraguay Farming? Um, ParaguayFarming.com.
Yeah.
You'll be able to get in touch with Daniel directly and just sort of mention My Latin Life. We help on the residency side of things as well.
Yeah.
Or probably the most like active taking action thing you could do as a listener to this podcast right now, there's a link in the description to book a call with us with My Latin Life. It'll be a
Mhm.
one-on-one personal consultation. We'll answer all your burning questions. Maybe you're navigating, should I do temp or should I do the SUACE program? Maybe you're looking at a number of different investments or residencies in Latin America. Maybe you have multiple different goals. So on this call, we'll go through everything. We'll build you a custom game plan and get you internationalizing as quickly as possible so that you can join us in the hollowed halls of Paraguay permanent residence. Cool. So, again, link in the description to book a call with us. Take action now. You could be speaking to us, as quickly as this week, and making this happen. But we want to thank Daniel for being here. Do you want to share maybe one final message with the audience before we say bye?
Yeah, for people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, this is a great way for you to add to your international footprint by having and owning an international business. Okay, very important. And for the older people who might be following you, Vance, this is a way for you to increase the international footprint of your children and your grandchildren, okay, the entire family, all right, both through the investment and also the residency.
That's it. So this has been another episode of the MyLatinLife podcast. Again, our guest today, Daniel Nance from ParaguayFarming.com, Frutas del Paraguay. All the links are in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you're enjoying the podcast, we put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Daniel, and you won't want to miss an episode. So please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. It really helps us grow the show. We're on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Twitter, everything. Send us a message if you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you in the next episode. Ciao for now.